Greetings. My name is Bruce Gerald. I've met some of you. I haven't met all of you, but welcome to our first cooking school class. Some of you who went to the gala back several months ago, we had a cooking demonstration. It was a big hit. And so now we have Chef Amy Van Lang, who's the chef and owner of the School of Cooking School in Baltimore. Before we start cooking, I certainly want to welcome you and also let you know just how deeply UMB, the School of Medicine, and others are involved in dealing with COVID. But most of you are like me. You hear about COVID every night in the news, on the TV, on the radio, and everything else. And we're not here to hear about COVID tonight, are we? So let me just assure you that we're front and center on that issue. But there's a much more important thing, and that is to learn how to cook. And the other important thing is I have a very great pleasure in introducing to you 5 of my grandchildren. They're here to take the cooking lesson today, and I'll introduce them to you quickly, but we're all going to be cooking our own pies in the next hour and a half. So there's Scarlett. Hi, Scarlett. And there's Lily. Hi, Lily. And there's Stella. Hi, Stella. There's Katie. Katie, say hi. Hi. And there's Bruce hiding there. Bruce, say hi. So I've got 5 sous chefs with me to help me cook throughout this whole process. So I hope you have as nice a company as I have, and I hope your pies come out better than mine will probably come out. Now, if you have questions along the way, as Chef Amy goes through things, use the chat box function, and we'll make sure that we try to address them. Also, I believe we're recording this, so know that what goes on will be recorded for posterity. We'll see how this all comes out. So with that, I look forward to seeing you at the end of the show and seeing what you cook. So, Chef Amy, it is up to you now. Thank you.
Are you guys ready?
You ready?
Yeah. Well, I know you guys are ready. So guys, welcome to your actual virtual cooking class. We're going to be making comfort foods today, we're going to do a chicken pot pie, and we're going to make a hazelnut tart. We're going to make some pie dough. We're going to use the same dough for the tart and for the chicken pot pie.
Oh, we have to go.
Right. Do you guys want me to wait a little bit so people have a chance to join?
Probably a good idea.
I'll tell you what, Amy, we already got a question even before the session started. So why don't I ask you the question?
Yeah, why? Because it usually takes a couple minutes for people to join. So why don't we wait for a minute?
So the question is from Vicky, and she wants to know, if I want to use 1 10-ounce can of cream of chicken soup for the chicken pot pie recipe, what other ingredients should I reduce or substitute?
So you said, you said this, it's chicken noodle soup. What did you say?
Cream of chicken.
Cream of chicken soup. I would put some celery in there, some onions, potatoes if you like potatoes. It's really kind of up to you. I like mushrooms in my pot pie. I don't think it's traditional that you put mushrooms in pot pie. What else do I have here?
Peas, carrots.
Peas, carrots, you know, the whole, it's usually that mix.
Would you use the whole pan?
For the cream of chicken, 10 ounce, yeah.
10 ounce?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
And then mix that, and then you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to make a roux. You don't have to worry about thickening up a bechamel or anything like that. So then you can just mix all of your ingredients together, maybe add a little bit of flour to that, so it does stay nice and thick, and then that goes right into the oven.
What about herbs? Would you?
Yeah, thyme is always very good. If you don't have fresh, that's okay. Dried is okay. Just remember that dried is a lot stronger than fresh. So it takes more fresh herb than it does dry herb. But thyme, parsley.
Maybe a little garlic?
Always garlic and everything. I mean, that's not even a question for me. Like, I love garlic. So I think that's. Yeah.
Nancy, does that answer the question?
I think it does.
Perfect.
If not, Vicky might be back. Someone else is saying, oh, it's Vicky again. Would I still use the chicken broth, milk, and yogurt in the recipe?
I wouldn't. It'll get too runny. it's gonna get too runny and then you're just gonna have a big mess. So no, I wouldn't do that. If you're just doing the cream of chicken, that's fine. I mean, add some extra chicken if you want, but definitely don't do the broth. It will get really soupy and then the crust will just be mushy.
Ew, we don't like a mushy crust.
No, we don't like a mushy crust.
Okay, here's another one. Should we already have chopped everything? If so, I'll get to work now.
Well, yes, that would be fantastic. But I am going to talk, we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's called mise en place, and it's basically what we do in the restaurant industry and people that cook in their homes, regularly. Mise en place, it means getting everything in place. So I like to chop all my vegetables. I like to have everything in front of me while I'm cooking, already prepped. It makes it's a little bit time consuming in the beginning, but at the end, it makes everything go faster. I think a lot of home chefs are wondering how we get stuff in the kitchen together all at one time. It takes a lot of prep in the beginning, and then it's a lot easier to get together at the end. So prep, yes, go ahead, chop your vegetables, get that all done.
Okay. Here's another one. Boy, I hope we get to cook.
I don't think we're gonna get to the demo. We might as well just pull up a chair.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is from Carol. What is the oven temperature for cooking the chicken pot pie?
We're gonna do 350 today. We're trying to limit work on your end. So 350 for the pot pie, 350 for the tart. It may take a little bit longer at 350. I typically do everything in my kitchen at about 400 because I like to get stuff done. But 350 is a perfect temperature for baking, especially like sweets. If your temperature is too high for cooking like cookies, they get really hard and it's just not good.
Amy, do you want to introduce us to your sous chef?
I do. So now that we've gone through that, why don't you want to just get started now? I think we've probably given up people some time to sign in. So this is my very good friend, John Newbar. He's gonna explain what he does because it's still a mystery to me. No, just kidding. No matter how many times he's been to my house. No, so this is John Newbar. He's a very good friend. He lives right in Mount Vernon up the street, and met him by him coming to Scola with some friends, and we've been friends ever since. So yeah, it's been
So
fun.
I'm happy to be here. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be the sous chef. So typically I'm in education, but I do not teach. However, I know all the tricks of the trade. So I'll be asking Amy the questions and, but I have a question for everyone first. Most essential question, does everyone have a glass of something?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be wine, it can be milk.
Exactly. That's important.
Yeah.
It just helps.
So guys, we're gonna get started. Today we are, like I said, we're going to make a chicken pot pie and we're going to do the hazelnut tart. The hazelnut tart takes a little bit longer, so we're gonna do that first. We're going to make a pie dough, which I gave you one recipe for the pie dough, and it's universal. You can use this for the tart, you can use this for the chicken pot pie. I highly recommend these. These are, if you don't feel like making your own dough, it's totally fine. I cheat all the time. I already know how to make a pie dough, so I'm not really concerned about it. These are really great, and these are usually in the section in your grocery store where the butter is. They're Pillsbury pie crusts. They're not frozen, so you don't have to thaw them, and they're just really nice. They come in these really nice rounds, so you don't have to worry about it. However, if you are a young chef or a new chef trying to learn how to make dough, I highly recommend making your own dough, but you already know these are perfect, right? So we're gonna use these today. And then it comes with a top and a bottom.
Okay. Amy, one quick question here about the tart. Can you use a graham cracker crust for the tart?
Recommend it for this because the filling's too wet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend graham cracker crust for this particular pie. I definitely would use a pie dough. I mean, if you want to experiment with it, go for it and let me know how it turns out. I love when people experiment and they tell me that it worked out perfectly. That's awesome. I've made mistakes in the kitchen and they've turned out to be really good mistakes. So I still use those recipes. Whoops, there goes the dough. So we're going to start, John is going to be my lovely assistant. We're going to start with the pie dough. So the pie dough, you have the recipe. I'm not going to explain everything that's going in this. We've got some flour and some baking powder. Go ahead and get that in there. I am not a chef that cooks from recipes, so this is a little bit more difficult for me to do from a recipe. I just do it all by memory. So I will be looking at the recipe, so please don't be offended. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna pulse the flour and the baking powder, and the salt's already added. We're just gonna pulse it. Is that on? Oh, you know what? This is a pain. Food processors are a pain. And if you're not using if you're not using a food processor, you can definitely do this by hand. Not a problem. We just happen to have this food processor, very easy. You can also do this in the KitchenAid if you want. So we're going to do that. So we are pulsing the flour and the baking powder and the salt. We're going to do butter. The butter needs to be cold, and it also needs to be cut into little pieces. We're going to pulse the butter into this mixture. And what you want to do is it's going to get mixed. It's going to get kind of flaky and like
crumbs.
Like crumbs, like little pearls almost. So you've got this handy dandy thing in your KitchenAid. Go ahead and just pulse. I'm going to add the butter a little bit at a time.
Amy,
Yes.
there's a question here. Someone made pie dough as suggested, but it's too dry to roll out.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
She made the pie dough, but it's too dry for her to roll it out.
Yeah, throw some ice water in there. So I've got some ice water just because I always use ice water in dough. I was looking at this recipe. Like I said, I don't cook my recipes. I was looking at this recipe and I was like, where's the ice water? Try to throw a little bit of ice water. If you do have a food processor, maybe put it back in and just put a little bit of ice water in, and that'll bring that together. Don't put the ice cubes in, okay? Just a little bit, maybe a tablespoon to start, and then hopefully that'll start coming together, and then you can kind of feel it, and it should kind of bounce back. So all is not lost, I swear. All right, so next thing we're gonna do, so this is pulsed in here. I got a separated egg. I don't know for you, those of you at home, I don't know if you know how to separate an egg. It's very easy. I just do it by hand. They've got all these YouTube tricks where you put a bottle in and suck the yolk out. Like, I don't do that. I just go the good old, they have egg separators too, which I think is a total waste of money. Yeah. People come in here all the time, like, do you have an egg separator? And I'm like, no, we use our hands here. All right, so we're pulsing. Let's see, is this on?
Can you see?
Yeah, well, we can see your hands. Excellent. So you're pulsing. What else are you doing? Yeah, we're good. A little bit, oh, you know what? It says to mix it in the bowl with the milk. I'm not really that worried about it. And now there's 2 tablespoons of milk that's gonna go in here. So the whole thing I was talking about mise en place, I have had all of this measured out before we started. Not everything, not the milk, but the butter was, the flour was, the salt. 1, 2, all right, so pulse that together. And like John was saying, which I don't think you guys heard, when you do prep ahead of time, it saves on dishes too. It saves on cleaning up. So.
Okay, so we have what looks like a fine crumb.
It looks like saltines.
Saltines.
Yeah. So now what we're gonna do, let's throw a little bit in here. I'm gonna throw a little bit of this ice water in here.
All right.
Ready? It's getting a little bit, yeah. That's looking like something that we can deal with. So for this recipe, do have some ice water on standby, and if you don't, just go get it. No big deal. I mean,
that was one of our discussions
we did talk prior to this. I did, yeah, exactly.
And I've never heard of
a recipe for pie dough that didn't have ice water, but then again, I don't really cook. Nancy and I went back and forth on these recipes. She was awesome. She looked in, edited, and was like, asked her all the questions ahead of time. I'm like, I don't know. That looks good. You know, this is what I do. So anyway, so now we're going to just put this out on the cutting board. I'm going to just go ahead and flip this over. You can see this is pretty nice and work together. So what's going to happen with the food processor, the blade heats up a little bit so that butter will melt a little bit. So it's going to be really soft. So now what I want to do is kind of form just like a disc, wrap it and stick it in the fridge for, I don't know, half an hour or so until this comes back together, and then we can roll it. If you rolled it right now, it's gonna be really sticky. I think we have a question. And then, I don't know if you guys can see that. I've got a little bit of flour on here, and I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap. So any questions so far? You sure? All right. So next.
People have asked
yes.
how they can access the recording, and we will send that message in our follow-up email to everyone. But
Oh,
someone,
with the ice water? Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, someone
will
did ask
definitely do
how
that.
much ice water to add.
I mean, probably just a tablespoon. I have a whole cup here because it was just easier. But I added probably about a tablespoon, and then that came together really nicely. If it's still a little too crumbly that it won't actually congeal or come together, then add a little bit more. But you kind of have to eyeball this. Ice water, probably a tablespoon, no more than 2. It's going to get too wet. And if your dough does get too wet, just add a little bit more flour, no big deal. Roll it out in flour, you'll be fine. Okay, so here we go. Next, while our dough is sitting in the fridge and getting, itself together. So I've got, again, I said, the thing about mise en place, we get everything together. we are actually using pecans today because hazelnuts are harder to find in the grocery store and they're really expensive. At least Eddie's never has them. Eddie's, but anyway, so I'm using pecans because that's what I have in stock. Another thing that I do a lot is I will substitute, if I can, with nuts, pecans. Way less expensive in my opinion than hazelnuts or pine nuts, that kind of thing. So we're using pecans today. Let's just chop this up a little bit. But I have all this pre-measured. It's a cup and a half of hazelnuts or pecans.
What other kind of nut do you use?
That's funny. It's funny because a question just came in about recommended substitutes.
I like pistachios, honestly.
Ooh,
yeah, they're really good. I use pistachios in pesto. I use pistachios in tarts. I think they're really good. And if you mix them, you could do some almonds. You could do a nut mix, whatever you have in stock. Peanuts tend to have a stronger taste, so I would stay away from peanuts. But the pecan, maybe a mix of pecans, pistachios, and some almonds, great mix. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've got everything measured. We've got a cup of, I like a little bit more chocolate in everything. So it's a little bit more than a little more than a cup of chocolate, but we're all just gonna get all this mixed together now. So what goes in this, and we're just gonna do this in the bowl. We don't need to do this in here. We're going to, and we're using what is called a Danish dough hook. I'm gonna show you. And this is a whisk. However, it just makes mixing so much easier. And if you are making doughs, it doesn't get stuck to all the spindles and the whisk, and it drives me, that drives me nuts. So I use this. We discovered this on Amazon, and it's a really great tool to have in the kitchen.
So you would use this like for making bread as well?
For making bread, for making bit of
Any
muffin dough, doughs, any kind of doughs I would use. So let's do this. We've got some flour, we've got some butter, some chocolate, sugar, eggs, vanilla, and lovely corn syrup. So we're gonna do that.
That brings us to a question. Someone asked, what can I substitute for corn syrup? I forgot to buy it.
Google that one because I don't know. I'm thinking maybe honey. I don't know.
Something with viscosity.
Something that will hold it together. You know what? We will get back to you on that.
Yeah.
That is when I will have to research. I don't know, and I don't want to just make something stupid up because then you're going to have a big mess on your hands. So let's get that mixed together. While we're getting that mixed together, do you have your phone?
I do.
I'll get this. I will get this mixed together.
I will Google corn syrup.
And see, yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think. That's it. I mean, it's a good question.
Someone is asking for the pot pie. Is the dough on the bottom of the pie or top or both?
So this is what I remember, Nancy, you and I were going back and forth because I know some people were really concerned about cutting some calories off of this menu. are also this recipe. So for the pot pie, you can do usually both. Usually put it under and on top. However, if you don't want all those calories, I mean, pot pie is delicious, but if you don't, you can do either. You can put it on the bottom like you would a quiche, or you can put it in a pie, like a pie pan, and then just do a layer of dough on top. And then you can do cute little shapes on top if you want, and then just bake it that way. Traditionally, you would use both, but if you do want to cut some of that out of there, I know, because I mean, pie dough is not exactly the least fattening thing in the world. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you don't care, 2 layers, one on the bottom, one on the top.
Okay, so Nancy, I'm on purewow.com.
Pure wow.
Pure Wow. And they suggest, there are 7 suggestions. The easiest one is to substitute light corn syrup, which we're using right now, 1 cup of granulated sugar dissolved into 1/4 cup of warm water.
That makes sense.
That's it.
That's like a simple syrup.
They also say honey,
Yeah. Honey. Oh, see, that wasn't too bad.
agave. If somebody has brown rice syrup, golden syrup, cane syrup, any of those maple.
Mapley syrupy
Yep.
kind of things.
Okay, does that solve that problem?
Okay,
Yes.
back to nuts. Do the
Back to
nuts,
the nuts.
back to nuts. Do the nuts need to be toasted?
Like them toasted. So nuts are kind of tricky. Here, you do this. I'll buy you a glass of water.
There we go. You talk.
So nuts are a little bit tricky when you toast them. Be very, very careful because they're almost like, when you stick bread in the oven and you're like, okay, that'll take a little while, and you walk away for 2 seconds, you come back, it's burnt. That's how nuts are. So you have to be very, very careful. They don't take that long in the oven. Time them or toast them on the stovetop. It's one of those things. It's like watch it. You gotta, as soon as the water starts, whatever I'm trying to say. It's just one of those things that you have to watch. You can't just kind of leave them in the oven for 20 minutes, they'll burn. So just be careful when you're toasting your nuts. They always taste better if they're roasted. So 3 eggs are going in.
All right. Are semi-sweet chocolate chips okay to use for this?
I love semi-sweet. I also do the darker ones. I like dark chocolate a lot. So I use that, especially my chocolate chip cookies, but semi-sweet are great. I don't really like regular milk chocolate.
No.
I'm not a milk chocolate fan. So I think it's a nice contrast. A little bit of bitter with the nuts is really nice. And then you've got the corn syrup in there, which is so sweet. You get the sugar in there. So yeah, bittersweet, semi-sweet's great. I need bitter. I actually put that into the flour already.
Okay.
So you just need a little bit of vanilla in there.
Someone's asking to repeat the name of the tool that John is using.
Oh, it's called a Danish dough hook. And I would love to tout small business right now, but I don't know any small kitchen stores in the area. And Williams-Sonoma is still corporate anyway, but you can definitely get them on Amazon. So.
And this is the first time I've used this. I need one.
This
is amazing.
It just doesn't get stuck. They're just so much easier to use. And I have to thank my business partner. He's like, we have these Danish dough hooks now. And I was like, what is this? And then I used it for the first time. I just thought it was awesome. What is that?
Would walnuts work for this recipe?
Yeah, walnuts, pecans. I think pecans and walnuts are almost the same nut. Although pecans are, I think it's corn syrup. Yeah, I think it's part of the corn syrup. I think walnuts are a little bit more bitter than pecans are, but yeah, you can use walnuts in this. Whatever you have on hand, really. Like I said, peanuts have a really strong flavor. Wouldn't really suggest that, but. And if you have, I'm just trying to think of what I have at home. I don't know. If you have pine nuts and you want to use them, they're expensive, but more power to you. You can use pine nuts as well.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
Exactly. Well, cannoli cookies, the Italian pine nut cookie, they're delicious. They're just, pine nuts are about as expensive as hazelnuts, almost more, actually. So we've got this, go ahead.
Someone's asking if you need to peel the hazelnuts.
You have to roast
You
them.
would have to roast them and then peel them.
Yeah.
Yes, if you got them without having them peeled first. There's a nut shop down on Charles Street near Conde Duckville or whatever, they sell them and they sell them without the shell on them. So you do need to roast the hazelnuts first and then take the peel off.
And the easiest way for the peel is to put it in a towel and to rub it like that.
Like that, like that.
Exactly. So you would put your warm toasted nuts and
Your
and
warm
then the
toasted nuts.
shells
yes.
come off.
Very good. How are we doing so far? I want to check in with the crowd and see if everybody's okay. If you guys do, if we're going too fast, please let us know. I do have a habit of talking through.
Everybody's on mute right now, but
Everybody's on mute, I know. Well, for the kids virtuals, I usually can see them and they'll all go like this, or they'll all go like that, you know, so it's always like.
here's one saying you're going too fast.
Okay.
One said we're right with you.
Okay.
No problem. So let's just hang out for a bit. Can we answer any questions because
There's
So
one,
let's
can you please review the steps and ingredients
Exactly.
you've done so far?
Shut up, John. I'm just kidding. All right, so what have we done so far? So we've made the pie dough and hopefully you guys are through the pie dough. If you're not, we can repeat that though.
So to the pie dough, you added what?
Ice water,
Ice water.
a tablespoon. Flour, it was flour, butter, salt. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Could I use lard instead of butter?
You can use lard instead of butter. Absolutely. Wasn't there anything else in there?
That's it.
All right, lots of more
Oh,
questions.
there was milk in there.
2 tablespoons.
Yeah, okay, so, yes, more questions.
All right, what temperature do you roast the nuts at?
I mean, I just stay at a simple 350,
And watch them because
Yeah,
they
watch
can burn easily.
really, really easily. We were
And-
saying before, nuts burn so quickly.
Should the chocolate chips be chopped?
It's easier.
You can, I don't. I get the minis though, so yeah, you can chop the chocolate chips. I mean, if you got those big chunky square ones, yeah, I would definitely chop those.
All
But
right,
if you're
how
using
do-
chips,
How do you feel about frozen onions for the pot pie?
it's fine.
I will.
You wouldn't?
Oh, I would. The little
Yeah.
pearl onions?
Well,
Absolutely.
I did actually add that in the recipe. If you guys were really not feeling like cooking, they do have a bag of, it's usually like pearl onions, peas, carrots, and potatoes, and it's like a stuff. It's like a soup. It's like the soup vegetables, and you can definitely use that. I have no problem with that. You're gonna saute them ahead of time anyway, so I don't have a problem with frozen onions, especially the pearl onions. A lot of people like those little pearl onions, and the only way I can ever find them usually is frozen. Every once in a while, you can find them in the fresh section. Like if I do a beef bourguignon, or I'm sorry, if I do a coq au vin or a beef bourguignon, I try to get the fresh ones, but just, yeah, use frozen.
And the
It's
good
fine.
thing about frozen, these things are picked and frozen at the right.
Exactly,
So
it's good stuff. So we'll review what we, go ahead, sorry.
What kind of pan will we be using, a tart pan or pie pan?
So I'm gonna
Then
use a tart. I'm gonna use a tart pan because I think I like it because I can pop the bottom out. If you don't have a tart pan, no big deal, just use a pie pan. It's fine.
Okay, and how long will we cook the tart and what temperature?
350, the recipe calls for an hour, but I would really check. I like to check everything at like 20-minute intervals. Well, I'm a 7-minute person, but 20-minute intervals for the dough or for the tart.
Okay, boy, they're coming in fast and furious. What's in over the tart filling? We did not hear or see what went in.
Okay, so for the tart filling, I'm just gonna read the recipe
Yep.
because it's easier. And then I don't forget anything.
corn syrup.
The corn syrup, so I think maybe it might be a little confusing because we are talking about substitute for things, so you're not exactly getting things, the recipe if you're here. So we did, yes, sugar, a little bit of flour, eggs. We did pecans, you can do hazelnuts, whatever nut that you have. It does say toasted, I prefer them toasted. About a cup of chocolate chips. Vanilla, corn syrup, butter, and salt. And you guys should have all these recipes. They were distributed, so this is meant for you guys to cook along with the recipes. So this is a handy tool to have when you're taking a cooking class. So Yeah, and all you're doing with that is mixing it all together. There's no like particular order. I mean, we usually in the kitchen like to do liquid with liquid and then solids with solids and then mix them together, but this is a pretty simple.
Okay, so Nancy, how are we doing? Are we ready to move on, or do we still need another minute?
How big is the tart pan?
That's a good question. Let me look at the tart pan. Where did I put them? Oh, I put them down here.
Yeah.
So this is a deep one. This is about, this is about 8 inches. This is a deep tart pan for the chicken pot pie. If you don't have a tart pan, don't use a tart pan. However, for the hazelnut tart, if you do have a tart pan, definitely do it in a tart pan. If you can't, you can do it in a pie dish. This is probably same size.
Mhm.
This is about an 8 inch as well. 8.5, 8. If I had to eyeball it, they should label these things. And like I said, I apologize. I'm so used to cooking all the time that it's, it's second nature to me. So I don't consider, like I can just measure in my head and go. So.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. Let's move ahead because I want to be sure we get to everything and save some
It'll
of
be
these
fine.
questions for.
We got it.
Okay.
All right, so for the sake of argument, we are going to just go ahead and use the pie crusts that we purchased. I will, at the end of the demo, roll the pie dough out so you guys can see it. But if you are on a time schedule, you're right, Nancy, I want to get everything done. However, if you want to hang out at the end, I will definitely roll that pie dough out and we can all kind of hang out. You don't have anything to do.
No.
I mean, we're going to hang out afterwards anyway, so it's totally fine. All right, so like I said, these pre-made pie doughs are great. How big are these?
These are 14.
So look, they're perfectly rolled out. They're really just nice to deal with. You don't have to defrost them. If you can't find these, I'd be surprised if you couldn't find these, but if you can't find these, I mean, Eddie's carries these. This Eddie's carries them. They don't always have a lot of stuff. But then you can find foil there. It confuses me. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this pan. If you don't have pan spray, just simply put some butter in there. Or you can do lard, something with some fat in it. I've got this Crisco stuff. Okay, so if you breathe this in, it'll make you cough a bunch. All right, I give it a very, very generous, as you can see, because I hate when this stuff sticks. It drives me nuts. All right, so this fits pretty perfectly in this pie. So let me move this a little bit. Okay, is that good? A little further out. Ooh, perfect. All right. So now you're gonna kind of and if you did roll out your pie dough, you want to roll your pie dough out at least a ½ inch to a ¼ inch thick. The pie dough rolls a little bit, your homemade stuff is going to roll a little bit differently because it's going to be a little bit crustier. But all I'm doing is pinching this to the sides of the tart pan. And then I'm just getting this. If it tears, just pinch it back together. It's not a huge deal. All right, so you can see this was really easy to use. This pie dough is nice and soft. It's not frozen. It's fresh, so it just makes it so much easier to work with. So for the hazelnut tart, we do not usually put a top on this. If you want to, you can crisscross. I just do it straight up with the ingredients. You want to get these nice and mixed before you put it in, because what happens is all the chocolate chips sink to the bottom and the nuts kind of rise to the top. So another thing you want to do when you're baking this in the oven, one of those sheet trays. You want to put this on a sheet tray because sometimes, I need a big one. They're right over on that first table, under the first table. Sorry, there's a bunch. So what I like to do is put these on a sheet pan because sometimes it'll leak out of the tart pan. Thanks. What I'm gonna do, I like to line stuff with foil so I don't have to wash a bunch of pans, but I'm gonna go ahead and spray this again. Because if it does seep through the tart pan, I don't want it to stick. All right, so I'm throwing things now.
And are you ready?
Yeah, so now you can see, let me get this. It's falling all over the place. All right, so now you can see this tart. You guys can see, I don't want to lift it too much because it'll all go around the side. I'm going to go ahead and throw this into the oven. If you feel like you need more chocolate in it, go ahead and add more chocolate in it. I have no problem with that. It's not going to hurt it. And now putting this into the oven, this oven has been preheated to 350 degrees. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a break. I'm going to let everybody kind of catch up. If you guys have any questions, let us know, and then we'll move on to the pot pie. Okay. All right. And I'm gonna, why don't you entertain people?
Entertain people. Sure.
Here, I'll clean up while you
Okay, fine.
Any questions?
Are there any does anybody want to share a success or a not a success that you've had?
Well, here's a question. Can we add Nutella for extra hazelnut flavor?
Ooh.
Of course, you can add Nutella to anything.
That would be really
Okay, that was from Regina. Thank you, Regina.
Regina, that's a great idea. This is actually Giada's recipe. Yeah, and I can't watch her on TV, but her recipes are amazing. They actually are really good.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about. Your recipe is a suggestion.
Yes. All right, we're still on. Okay, we're good. All right, so I'm just gonna.
Can people make individual pot pies?
Yeah, I have a bunch of these cute little tarts. I was gonna do the same thing, but yeah, you can make individual pot pies. They're great.
Would they freeze well?
Yes, pot pies freeze really well. That's a great point. And then you can, so you can make a bunch. Like there's only 2 people in my household, so to freeze these is a great idea because we're never gonna eat a whole pot pie between the 2 of us, believe it or not. So freezing these, great idea. You can actually freeze the hazelnut tart as well, you know? So that's a great idea.
Speak up a little bit. I didn't hear that last part, so I'm not sure everyone did.
Yes, you can definitely freeze the pot pies, and you can also freeze the hazelnut tart.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So like I said, we're gonna let you kind of catch up for a minute, and then we're gonna move on to round 2, which is the chicken pot pie.
Does it matter which oven rack you use?
What do you mean? Oh, you mean middle? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I mean, I always go middle. If you're only cooking one thing, go middle. But if you're cooking 2, use the top and the almost to the bottom.
All right, Heather's asking if we can resend the recipes to everyone who registered, that she never got it. And yes, we will send them again in our follow-up.
All right.
Do you have to rotate the tart at any point or?
I do, because my oven is very strange.
Same.
So that's a really good point. John brought up a good point. You do want, when you're roasting this, you want to kind of turn it halfway through the baking process because a lot of ovens just cook in the back and the front. You will notice that it's not brown. It'll be like a lighter color. So you do want to rotate that if your oven is like that. We even have convection ovens and they do the same exact thing. So yeah. Anything else?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. You didn't prick the bottom of the pie crust first, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Okay, that's
Busted.
okay.
Busted.
But usually
It was a test to make sure you were paying attention.
well, I mean, usually when you do that, it's because you're blind baking. We're not blind baking this dough because this stuff will cook very, very quickly. If you're using a lot of, like if you're doing something like that needs a lot more time to, I'm sorry, I'm doing this the wrong way. If you're doing something that needs less time to cook, you want to par bake your crust, and that's when you prick the dough. And what you do is it's called docking the dough. You put it in the oven, you par bake the dough, then you pull it out, and then you put your ingredients in. My mistake. This is going to take a little bit more time to cook, so we're not worried about the dough like burning, or I'm sorry, being undercooked. Sorry, that's my brain's not.
So if I open up a can of the cherry stuff, pie filling,
Yes.
I want to make sure I prick.
Yes, because that's already cooked. Good. See, this is a great reason John is here. So you do want to dock your dough, par bake your dough when you're doing something like opening up that
Pie filling.
pie filling that's pre-made, because you want to make sure that the dough cooks properly and evenly. But for this, we're just cooking it all at the same time, so we don't have to worry about docking. But docking is what you mean, you can dock it. It's just so the dough doesn't go crazy and rise up really high around the pie, and you can just go ahead and put the filling in.
I just want to remind some of our guests, if you did not receive the recipes with the ingredients, you might want to check your junk or spam folder, because we have a number of people that happened with. So please check those other folders.
And that actually happens to me all of the time at Scola. People are like, I didn't get the recipe, and like it's probably in your spam or your junk folder.
Yeah. But we will send it again.
Ooh, smells good in here. John's connecting the phone to the charger. All right, are we doing okay? How are you guys feeling? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you? Any questions? Because we're going to move on to the pot pie.
I'm happy. I'm waiting to see if any questions come in.
Nancy, you're always
You're
happy.
a great facilitator, Nancy.
Nancy's like the most lovely woman to work with.
Will you
Oh,
come in?
thank you.
You were so great. You're like, I'm sorry for so many questions. I'm like, it's okay, it's fine. All right, so we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes on questions, and then we'll get started on the pot pie.
Well, most of the people weighing in are saying, let's move on to the pot pie.
Let's
Ah,
move
good.
on. Perfect.
All right, guess what I have? Another Pillsbury dough. Like I said, I will roll out the one in the fridge after. I just want to make sure we get through this for people on time constraints. Well, I need two for this one. But no, that's cool. I need that one too. That's great. I'll use that one.
Fine.
Well, that's magic. That's good. All right. So, remember when I was talking about that mise en place? I have all of this stuff prepped. I do not have carrots. I'm not, whatever I had in my fridge, I kind of chopped up and I'm going to use for the pot pie.
So this is really good for leftovers.
And it is. It's great for leftovers. Like if you have leftover potatoes, onions, peas, I never have leftover peas. No. But celery, I always have leftover celery. Carrots, I usually have. I just don't have them today. And then I do have mushrooms. They're over here that we pre-roasted. Okay, so what we're gonna do next. So the next step is if you do have carrots, celery, if you do have some carrots and thyme and stuff, we're going to kind of boil them in a little bit of chicken stock first. If you're doing a vegetarian version, use vegetable broth and leave out the chicken, obviously. So I'm gonna put these guys, we're gonna just chop these a little bit. They're already sliced, but this is just a mix of cremini and bellas, which are white.
You roasted these for how long?
Really not that long. I like to roast mushrooms because they're so wet. I roasted them with some garlic oil that I had pre-made, and I did it probably about 15 minutes with a little bit of salt. The salt brings out the moisture. If you do these in a saute pan, it takes a while for them to cook down. It takes more time for the moisture to pull out of those. Whenever you add salt to something like a tomato, an eggplant, or mushroom, that is gonna draw the moisture out of that dish, which is lovely. I mean, you wanna do that. You don't want a big piece of pile of mush. So, but these were 15 minutes and they, you know, they look good to me. I did taste one, they taste great. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt though. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start reducing some chicken stock, which I have over here. If you have homemade, fantastic. If not, I wouldn't worry about it too much. You can get those Knorr, I think the Knorr packets are really great. So this isn't plugged in. So I like to use Knorr. They have like little teeny tiny packets that look like Crystal Light. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen those? He has no idea.
Yes, absolutely. We have some adjustments here.
Oh, there should be a thing right there. All right, anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to throw your carrots on.
Okay.
Oh, carrots on. I don't have carrots, like I said. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this chicken stock in the pan and reduce it a little bit on high.
Why are you reducing it?
I just want it to get a little bit thicker.
All right, Amy,
Yeah.
Gigi Winston is asking, if you cook chicken breasts instead of using rotisserie, how many do you think you need?
2.
Okay, great,
I'm only doing
2 thighs.
2 thighs.
okay,
There's a lot of vegetable in this, so you don't have to go crazy on the chicken, but it like 1.5 to 2 breasts I think would be good. I don't know
okay.
if you're using those huge ones, you may only need 1.
If you use fresh pearl onions, do you need to saute them first?
Yes,
Okay,
and we're gonna do that. That's our next step. So while this chicken stock is reducing, let's put this on the other.
Got it.
I'm gonna eat a mushroom because they're delicious. Now I'm going to add some olive oil. I'm gonna start sauteing these onions a little bit. And like I said, if you add a little bit of salt to them, don't go crazy on the salt. If you add a little bit of salt to them, it does pull the moisture out and it will make them cook a little bit faster. So I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to these onions. Everything else is pretty much, except for the celery, is pretty much cooked. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna saute the onions and we're gonna saute the celery. And then we're gonna kind of make a roux to thicken this all up. So if you have some garlic, if you want to throw some garlic in here, it's great. You can just leave that. Yeah, just turn it on and then let it. I feel like I've been talking too much, John. Come on.
No, I'm here.
All
It's
right.
the Amy show.
Yes. Okay, so we're getting this sauteed. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
So we're going to saute these down a little bit. It usually takes about 6 to 8 minutes to saute onions down. So if you have any questions, this is a perfect time. What I am going to tell you is we're going to saute the onions. We're going to throw the celery in. Then we're going to remove this, and then we're going to make our roux. Okay.
okay. Marcia Boonshaft is asking, the recipe says 4.5 cups of chicken broth, but it doesn't look like you added that much.
I only added, it says 4.5 cups. No, don't do that much. Do about a cup is fine.
Oh, big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. All right, like I said, I got my peas, my potatoes. I have an egg here because we're gonna egg wash the top of the dough. If you egg wash the top of the dough, it'll make it nice and brown, crispier. It'll look a lot prettier. I'm gonna do that. So I'm
Does it
gonna
do anything
saute.
for the taste, or is it just pretty?
It's pretty much aesthetic.
All
All right,
right,
now I'm gonna take over on answering some questions.
Lauren Kalia says that the camera isn't showing what you're cooking. Do you
Oh, we'll move it.
Do you have both a saucepan for your broth and a skillet for the vegetables to saute?
All right, can you see that?
Right, is that better?
I moved to another burner to, so you guys can actually see what we're doing here. The chicken broth is just gonna get sauteed, or just gonna reduce down. If you do have carrots, throw that into the chicken broth so it does kind of cook the carrots down. I don't have carrots, so I'm not doing that. Right?
You know what it smells like? Your grandmother's
Like
kitchen.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Here's Candy is asking someone else. My pie plates are 9 inches, but doubling the recipe for each dish to get 2 pie.
You're gonna be okay.
Okay,
9 inches will be fine.
9 inches fine, Candy.
You need wine. I got this.
It looks like, all right, that's Marcia again. She already made it, I guess, with the 4.5 cups, but she hasn't put it in the crust yet. I'll let it thicken.
Good.
So you had trouble thickening something, make like a slurry
With cornstarch?
with cornstarch.
Yeah, if you do have, that's a good point. If you do have trouble thickening anything, you could make, you could put a little bit of water into maybe something like a ramekin with a little bit of cornstarch and just to make sure it gets nice and mixed. If you don't, it'll turn to a big lumpy mess. However, we're gonna thicken with butter and flour tonight.
All right. Can you repeat that, please, Amy? Because I don't know about everybody else, but I didn't hear it well.
Okay, you'll be able to hear once I get these sauteed off, so it'll be 2 seconds. That's fine. So this be good. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, can you guys hear now?
I can. The sound is not great, but yes.
Okay. Usually when it's just me, I have a mic on, but with 2 of us, you wouldn't be able to hear both of us, just one. Okay. I'm just gonna throw this into- All right, so I'm going to, you see this sauteed. I got the onions and the celery sauteed. I'm gonna throw this into a bowl on the side. And now I'm going to make a roux. Do you still have that? Maybe still have that. It's right over there. So a roux is half flour, half fat. So what we're going to do is I'm going to melt some butter in the same pan that I sauteed these onions and the celery with.
How much butter?
It's half flour, half fat. So this is 2 tablespoons of fat, which is butter or oil, whatever fat you decide. And then we're going to do 2 dry tablespoons of flour.
Someone is saying my flour and milk came out in lumps.
Your what? Your flour is coming out in lumps?
Flour and milk came out in lumps.
Add more milk.
Add more milk, Mary Ann.
All right, so we're gonna do a roux. The one thing you probably don't want to jump ahead on is the roux. So we're melting the butter down, okay? Now I'm gonna turn this way, way down. Very, very low heat. The butter's melted. There is some of the celery and the onion on this, so it will be a little bit lumpy because of that. But now what I'm gonna do is add the flour. Okay, and then we're gonna thicken this up. And it will be clumpy. It's a little weird looking. It's almost like the pie dough. Not yet. All right, so I've got this weird clumpy mixture, but now I'm gonna add some milk or some heavy cream. If you don't mind the fat, go heavy cream. If you do mind the fat, go, lesser fat milk.
Someone said, if I used 4 cups of chicken broth, should I scoop some out?
Yes, if it doesn't thicken. If it's
Right.
real soupy, then yes, but if not, if it's a little bit thick, you're fine. You can always reduce the chicken broth in measurement. You can take like 2 scoops out before you put it into your actual chicken mixture. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much right now. And like I said, virtual classes are a lot more challenging than regular in-person classes. It's easier for me to come around and say, hey, this is what you need to do. This isn't working. This is why it's not working, rather than do this virtually. It's a lot tougher. So don't get frustrated. I mean, it's just kind of an interesting learning curve.
Amy, coming from the event side of things, I will tell you everything is more challenging virtual.
I really do feel for the teachers teaching little, like the kids.
Impossible.
I can't even imagine, because I know how hard it is on this end, and I don't even do it every day, you know? So, okay, so this is nice and getting nice and thick. I'm probably gonna start.
Lauren Lee is asking, where did your vegetables go? Did you put it in the broth or is it just the roux mixed in with vegetables?
I put them in a bowl on the side. So I
Right.
took them out of the pan, put them in a bowl on the side, and then eventually everything's gonna get mixed right back into each other. Okay.
So you created like a white sauce.
Yep, a bechamel basically, and the bechamel is a mother sauce, which is, I'm not gonna get into that, but a bechamel is the starter of a cheese sauce, like an Alfredo. You're gonna use a bechamel to make queso, honestly. Like it's always like a roux with a little bit of milk, mornay added in. All right, so this is getting nice and thick. We're getting the lumps out, and I'm gonna add a little bit of that chicken stock.
Amy, how long does the tart cook?
The tarts, well, check it at 20 minutes. But
Okay.
it should cook for about 45 minutes, at least. But keep checking it.
Here's
I just
a
added-
comment from Tanya. This is a lot of fun and a perfect menu for a cold, snowy winter evening.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to hear, because I always worry. I'm always like, oh no, no one's caught up, and then this isn't the last
This
exact
is not a
recipe.
4th of July recipe.
No, this is definitely not a 4th of July recipe. All right, so we are gonna switch pans. I'm gonna take the rest of that chicken broth. I'm gonna throw my roux into the rest of this chicken broth that I had. I only had about a cup.
Ken is asking, it looks like you used far more than 2 tablespoons of flour for the roux. What about the half-half ratio?
I just kept, well, I just kept adding up. See, like I said, I cook all the time, so I know what to do. Make sure it is at least half and half, but if it's not clumpy when you're making the roux, add a little bit more flour. You just need to figure out what to get, but it should be half and half. Sometimes it's a little bit more flour.
It also depends on humidity.
It does.
You have
That's a
number of
good point.
factors.
Yeah, John has a good point. It does depend on humidity in the air. Things dissolve faster in certain times of the year. It's like making pasta can alter the altitude that you're at. It's kind of a strange thing. So you sort of have to get used to being able to get that skill of, hey, I think I need to add a little bit more of this.
Once again, a recipe is a suggestion.
A recipe is a suggestion. Exactly, John. I love that. A recipe is a suggestion. And if you can, a recipe is a suggestion, and get to the point where you're like, I really like this, and you add a little bit more salt or less cream or more of this and more of that, and you kind of make it your own. I always make recipes my own. I start and I look at what's in there and then kind of go from there. All right, so I've got, I don't know if you guys can see that. This is,
What is that, about a cup or so?
a little bit over a cup, probably a cup and a quarter. So this is just a mixture of the flour, the butter, the chicken. I'm going to add a little bit of salt.
So
And some
Nancy,
pepper.
how are we doing? Is everybody caught up? Do we need to slow down? What do we need to do?
Let's see, someone's asking, Monica's asking, when do we add the potatoes and are they cooked? And
Okay.
yeah, I believe you were to pre-cook the potatoes.
Yes, that was on your recipes actually. But yes, part cooking the potatoes helps a lot. Then you can cook the pie a lot less time. So you know what? You can throw your potatoes in the microwave and they'll be done in like 3 minutes. I wouldn't worry about it. I know people have this thing against the microwave. I cooked in Italy for 6 months and they used the microwave constantly and I was shocked. I came back to the US and I was like, oh my God, they use the microwave for everything. It shocked me. So don't feel bad about throwing the
You
potatoes
would
in
cube them and then throw them in, or?
I throw them in whole. I just threw it in. The potato I used today, I microwaved for 3 minutes.
Okay.
And there's usually a potato setting on your microwave. So I'm gonna check this tart. Woo!
Looks good.
We are with you, your pace is fine.
Good.
Can we see what Roux looks like now? Oh,
Guys, can you see that?
wow.
Okay, so that's why I want you to check your tarts at 20 minutes because, like I said, a recipe is a suggestion. Some people's ovens are cooler than others. I actually have mine up a little bit higher, so mine did cook a little bit less time. But just check it. But this is what this tart has come out to look like. And what I would do is let it cool to the point where it's warm and just serve it with some ice cream, or let it cool and do some whipped cream. Some homemade whipped cream on top is always really lovely. Right, so I'm gonna put this to the side so I don't burn the
So-
back.
You know, Amy, you know I could be there in about 5 minutes.
Dinner. I'll go grab some more wine. It'll be fantastic. All right.
So how do I know if the chart is?
Can you show your Roux again, please?
Yep. So you kind of want it to coat the back of the spoon. I'm going to use these tongs. So I don't know if you guys can see that. You want it doesn't have to be like clumpy thick. You want it to kind of coat the spoon. There's a lot of ingredient going in here. There's a lot of starch in those potatoes, so that will thicken up your roux as well. Don't worry if it's not completely like absolutely wallpaper paste thick. It's okay. Like I said, the starch from the potatoes and everything else will thicken it right up. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add my vegetables. I'm probably only going to do about half what I have because I don't have a ton in here. I'm going to do half potatoes that I have, half of the mushrooms, those onions, celery,
Cheese.
peas.
What do you have here? Parsley.
Yeah, I got some freshly chopped parsley.
I think I'm going to answer Gigi's question here, which is, should you use a pan with a removable bottom for the tart? And I would say it's just easier to get it out and have it look like a tart. Is that correct?
I agree.
Okay.
All right, so I'm adding all my chicken.
So once again, about a cup and a half of chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was 2 thighs. That worked pretty perfectly. So I'm getting this all nice and mixed together. I don't want this you don't want it real soupy, but you don't want it super thick.
You want to roll your dough out, right?
Yep. Ooh, this is good. I'm gonna salt and pepper this.
Amy, do you need to test the tart, the center for doneness like you would do with a cake?
Exactly what you would do. And John was getting around to saying that, and I think I cut him off.
Okay.
All right, great. Because
Yeah, you do it like you would a cake, same thing. And another thing you want to do is taste this because everything is cooked in it. So taste it, see how it tastes. If you think you need some garlic, add some garlic. If you think you need some salt, you need more thyme, whatever it is you want to add in there. Are you hungry?
I am.
Are you? You're never hungry. He's like skinny mini.
This is gonna be our dinner, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna sit on the, yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right, mushroom, very good. All right, so now we're going to flip that over. Guys, if you're just using your cutting boards in the kitchen for vegetables, don't feel the need to get a whole new cutting board. Just flip it over. So much easier. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to do this in a little bit of a deeper. I'm going to do this in a deeper pan because there's more liquid in this. So you want to do this?
Sure.
Spray it out. Spray it. How are we doing? Do we have any more questions? I think I threw it on the floor. It's over there. Like I said, we are using those pre-made pie doughs again. If you guys are still interested, at the end, I will grab our the pie dough that we made together and we'll roll that out so you guys can kind of see what that looks like.
Here's one. Was I supposed to melt the chocolate for the tart?
Were you supposed to what?
Melt the chocolate for the
No,
tart.
you don't have to. You can. It doesn't make that much of a difference. I would leave it whole. It's just an extra step that you don't need to do. Some recipes call for that, but I wouldn't worry about it.
All right. Did you add the yogurt?
So I'm doing kind of a different recipe. So no, I did not. I'm doing I'm doing the lather yogurt. You guys have the directions. You can do that. I'm doing full-on whole fat recipe, okay? I know you guys asked for a nice, healthier version that has yogurt and 2% milk in it. I went head-on full heavy cream, butter, so no yogurt in mine. However, if you are looking for that healthier alternative, which is this recipe that you guys are cooking, it's all the same concept. You're mixing the same things together, okay? Like I said, we're full fat. John's like 90 pounds, and so it doesn't really, John needs fat in his life, and I can't help but love it, so.
Okay.
Beautiful. So John has gotten me, I'm going to show, you can see that from there. All right, so let's go ahead.
Are you ready? That's beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, when everything clears up and we can all do this together, you guys should come down here. We'll make this stuff together. But here we go. I'm going to move the camera so you can see.
So I have a question. So you're using 2 pie crusts for this. You're doing bottom and top.
Yeah,
But
I
if you want-
definitely am. But you don't have to.
Right. If you want to make it a little healthier and cut some of the calories, you could just use a top crust, correct?
Exactly. And another thing I'm going to do is I think we should make it all cute. And,
That's you.
yes, that's me. Oh, sorry.
That's you.
Okay, so I'm going to show you. I did this the other day and I thought it was kind of fun. Can you get that?
Yep.
Beaten?
Yep.
Can you beat that, John? I'm good at egg beaten. How are the girls doing? Not the girls, the grandkids doing? How are they doing?
You know what? Dr. Gerald sent me an adorable picture and I want to see if I can figure out how to show it.
That would be great. And Nancy, if you could send that to me, I love getting this stuff on our social media. I love having people send us their creations. And it didn't work out, it didn't work out. We can always work through it. But if you guys have any questions after the fact, I am always more than happy to work with you guys. You can email me with any questions after this.
Okay. So I really want to show myself, but I have to show you this if I can. This is Monica Maggioni's 9-year-old daughter's pie crust. I don't know if you can all see it.
Oh, it's too bright.
It's got the MB logo on it.
Oh, that's so cute.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna do this little thing that I saw. I like to watch food videos and go imagine that a bit. So I'm gonna put some flour on this. And then, I thought this was kind of cute. Can you start now? So they did this with a blueberry pie, which is a lot different, but whatever. I'm gonna do it anyway. Oh, and with pie dough, you can like see that the holes in there. You can always re-roll this if you need more dough. But you don't have to do it this way. You can just put the top on top and crimp it. You don't have to do this. It's not a big deal. I just thought it was fun and something different.
Okay. How deep should the pie dish be for the pot pie?
You have about an inch and a quarter, I think.
Let's go 2.
Okay.
2 inches, Colette.
No. Because you don't want it to ooze over. That's cute.
I will show you this. I'm just gonna do it real quick. He was looking at me like I was crazy. I could tell. You're like, what is going on?
Uh-huh.
All right, so if you guys can't see, I'm putting the rounds on top. And I'm doing a couple different shapes. And I know this is goofy, but I just thought it was something more fun. If the kids are doing this, they like this stuff. They think it's really fun. Especially using cookie cutters with dough is fun. So I'm just doing little rounds, and then I got a couple little smaller rounds. And instead of just covering this with the pie dough, I'm just making it a little bit more decorative. It's modern. And now we're gonna do some ovals. Right. We got all kinds of little shapes going on. All right, so I'm gonna re-roll out this dough. All right, so you guys can see that I've got a bunch of little rounds on here. It's just something different. However, you do not have to do this. You can just put the extra pie dough on top without worrying about it. And then what we want to do with this dough, we want to egg wash it. So there's actually the over there. So if you have a grill brush, like a silicone grill brush at home, or just a pastry brush, straight ahead, to your right. Right. You're looking right at it. I swear to you. So we're gonna do a little bit of egg wash, which is typically just a teeny bit of water with some egg. I don't need the water in this. I'm going to brush the top of the pastry, and this will actually make the dough brown a little bit faster and look prettier. What I would do with this is cover it for about 10 minutes and then uncover it. Okay, we're gonna need another sheet tray, I'm sorry. You didn't know you were gonna have to work, right? Oh well. Reel them in.
You want to spray?
Yes.
This is my takeaway.
Yeah, well, he's
Yeah.
taking it home, so that's good, yeah. Okay. All right, so now I'm just gonna, like I said, I got this cute little thing. Yeah, you could do cookie, like you can do stars, hearts, like for Valentine's Day, if you want to make this for one of your loved ones. You could do hearts, that would be fun. Or you can just do traditional, just cover it with another pie dough and then just put some slits in it for air vents.
All right, couple questions here.
Okay.
Did you use the whole egg for the egg wash?
Yes.
Yes, well, I still have some left, but it's kind of hard to crack an egg and not use the whole thing.
Okay, because I think in the recipe, somewhere you used the yolk and then maybe
I
that was,
think it says refrigerate the yolk, or I'm sorry, refrigerate the white. I think that's I think that was for something else, but I usually, egg wash, I always just mix like a tablespoon of water, a whole egg. That's what I use for egg wash.
okay. If we freeze the pot pie, this is from Karen. If we freeze the pot pie for later, how would we cook it? Thawed or frozen for any longer period of time?
That is a good question. I would do it frozen.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll take longer. So it doesn't matter. If you thaw it, it's going to take less time to cook it in the oven. If you do it frozen, then it's going to, I'm sorry, if you thaw it, it'll take less time in the oven. If you do it frozen, it's going to take a lot longer. I don't know
But
if
are we asking the question, do I take it before it's cooked and freeze it, or do I take it, cook it, then freeze it?
Oh, I don't know what the question is. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So raw, you can do it. I mean, I would do it. You can do it either way.
Yeah.
You can bake it first and freeze it. You can do it raw and
Yeah,
freeze it.
sounds
It
like
doesn't-
maybe baked first.
Big,
Like-
yeah.
yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. Can you leave the pot pie open face or do you need to top it with crust?
No, but when you're doing that, cover it with foil. If
Okay,
you are gonna leave it without the top layer on, cover it with foil so that all cooks, because your dough will get will cook way faster because you need that. But even though the pot pie filling is already cooked, it needs to come to temperature, and you want that like bubbling, nice and hot. So if you are taking that step where you don't want to, you have that extra fat dough in your recipe, then you can leave it off. However, cover it with some tin foil. Anything else? Do you want me to roll out the dough that we have?
what do you put in the egg wash? I think you just answered that with a little bit of water.
I do it with a little bit of water. It makes it easier to deal with. It's not as like sticky. And like I said, you can do this without the chicken. If you're a vegetarian, just do it with the vegetables. I mean, everything else is the same. Everything in this dish is vegetarian except for the chicken and the chicken broth.
Yeah.
All right, so we have, this has been chilling. This is the dough that I had. I'm gonna probably put a little bit more flour on the surface. Oh.
Oh,
That was a little bit
oh,
of.
that's here, this will work, right here.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm sorry, Nancy, were you guys asking a question? I thought I heard you. No?
No, we don't. have
Okay.
that right
No,
now.
no biggie either way.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah, how is
I
it?
just sent a couple of pictures to
Yay!
Alex to see
Yeah,
if,
please email them to me.
yes, absolutely. I'm going to see if Alex can share his screen. I'm technology challenged.
I
Oh,
think,
so to share the screen, Nancy, you'll click on her
Give me a second,
picture.
Nancy.
Can you do it?
Say that again.
If you click on his picture, is it Alex?
That was Alex.
Yeah, click on his picture, and is he co-hosting? You can make him a co-host to share a screen.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm working on it. I'm just fixing up the picture a little bit. Just give me a
Okay.
moment,
Here he
everybody.
comes.
Okay,
He's doing his magic.
perfect.
no, we're at 5:20.
We're good.
I was worried that this was gonna go a little over. All right, okay, so when I have my dough, it's pretty hard at this point. It's
Oh, there we go.
obviously nice and cold.
There we
Oh,
go.
that's
That's
awesome.
perfect.
I love that. That's so exciting. Oh, so cute.
Great picture. The Gerald grandchildren.
Aw. All right, so I'm gonna roll out my dough. I flatten it a little with my hands. You guys should probably see this. And you want it about, a quarter-inch thick or so. It doesn't always come out in a perfect circle, don't worry about it. You can always re-roll the dough. You can fold it back in on each other and re-roll if you want. This is still a little thick. I want to flip this every once in a while because I don't want it sticking to the board. You'll never be able to get it off without like a knife or something like that. We made pizzas on Saturday and people were having problems with them. I was like, you gotta put some flour down. All right, so this isn't perfectly round, which is fine.
Judy Shank is asking, how do we know when the tart is done? Mine is soupy.
It still needs time in the oven.
Then it definitely, yeah, it needs more time in the oven. If it's really, like, if the dough is actually cooking way faster than the middle, then cover it with some foil. Yeah, but yeah, if it's still too soupy,
So you just want it to barely jiggle.
yeah. And then when you stick a knife in or fork in it, it comes out.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's, if it's jiggling, it's definitely not.
Yeah, I just know my oven is very slow. To the
Yeah,
point,
and some people's are. I mean, like 350 in some people's oven, you can do it in, no time, and some in others, they take forever. They're calibrated so differently.
yeah.
All right, so I've got this dough. I'm just gonna use, I've got these little mini tarts, so I'm just gonna use one of these. So what I would do again, hand away. And
Do
then
you
I would just
recommend a pan with a removable bottom for the pot pie?
I'm sorry, what? Do we need one?
Do you recommend a pan with a removable bottom for the pot pie?
You can. I used one just because that's what I was using, but it is easier to do it in a pie pan, but I just like the tart pan.
Well, it looks a little prettier.
It does. All right, so I'm just.
And speaking of crust, Alex is now going to show us our colleague, our colleague Monica's, her 9-year-old daughter's pie crust.
Awesome. Oh, that's
Love
the
it.
Maryland logo. That's so cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's going on top of the pot pie? That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's Isabella, who took your summer international kids camp class.
Excellent. Well, fun. That's very fun. All right. Well, this is the portion where we're going to answer some questions. I'm going to check on the pot pie. It's not done yet, but I'm going to check on it anyway.
Okay. Here's from Shelley. I had a lot of extra filling. What could I do with it?
Ooh,
Well,
that sounds good.
I know. Just eat it with a spoon. You can freeze it. You can make soup out of it. You can thin it out with some stock and make a chicken soup.
alligator.
Or you could do something
Chicken
like that.
alligator.
If you want to add some noodles to it, you
Yeah.
can make a chicken noodle soup, chicken a la king. I really don't know very
I
well.
know.
Yeah. You can make individual, like you want to make individual, like little pot pies and freeze them. That's a good use for it too. Or if you just want to like kind of seal it. I mean, I always say vacuum seal because we have a vacuum sealer, but seal it and stick it in the freezer and you can kind of use it whenever you want.
Okay.
I don't leave anything in the freezer more than 2 months because I just don't, but you could probably freeze it up 6 months. But I'm just like a
But that would
weirdo.
be a quick and easy lunch or dinner.
Absolutely.
Somebody here, Gigi said, put it on top of biscuits.
Oh, great idea.
Absolutely.
Great idea. Oh, and you know those little puff pastry guys that you can get at the Pepperidge Farm ones?
Yeah.
They're like the vol ones that you can use for escargot.
Ooh,
Great
that
idea.
would be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
Here's a nice comment from Elaine. Thank you. This was very fun. My first
Okay.
cooking
Thank
class,
you.
and I would definitely do another one.
Oh,
Amy.
excellent. Thank you.
Amy, you were great. Can't wait to eat my pot pie and tart.
Fantastic.
Great fun from Gigi.
Good. Thanks, Gigi. I
Beth,
just like your name, Gigi.
Beth Zebron seconds that. Ken is asking, could you please show your tart again? Wait, no, that's from
Oh,
Leslie.
the hazelnut?
Show your tart again.
Sure.
But Ken is saying he would love more of these as well. And Ken, we will have them coming your way.
Notice how it sunk down just a little. It's not as puffy as it was.
Right. And that happens. But here it is. And you don't want it to go too much browner than that. Like, I think
Oh,
this
it's
is pretty,
amazing.
yeah, I think this is pretty good.
Carol Romer says, my house smells wonderful.
Very good.
Colette Winston, wait, I just lost her. This was really fun. We need fun. Yes, we do.
We all need fun right now.
Ryan
John
Cooper.
and I haven't seen each other since October. Yeah?
That's it. That was the last time, other than texting.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Okay, do we have Dr. Gerald back with us? Dr. Gerald?
Dr. Gerald.
All right, let's get him on.
Wait a minute.
Up, there you go.
I need to get more.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to get it on.
The host stopped the cameras.
Start my video.
Ask the grandkids. Oh, look.
Back, don't spill
Oh,
it.
don't
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, look at that.
I like the hearts.
Are you gonna say thank you, Amy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And we
That looks
also
great.
cooked the
Beautiful.
tart. Can you see the tart?
Oh, my.
Wow, it looks beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, you
Our
guys
house smells
great.
delicious too.
Mhm.
And we have 5 kids that are at our house most of the time, so they cook their own cooking.
That must be thrilling for you.
Yeah. I want to thank all of you in the audience. This was our first try at this. We'll get better at it, but our pot pies smell actually very, very good. So I
Good.
can't wait to have dinner. So thank you all for being here, and we'll do another one in the spring, Nancy tells me. If
Yep.
I-
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
I'm gonna thank John for helping me.
Bye.
Bye.
John and Amy, thank you so very much. I think this was great, and I think everybody had a good time. And, you know,
Nancy.
spring is right around the corner. And we'll be doing another one. Amy and I will
Okay, it's cool.
get our brains together, our heads together, and come up with a really cool menu for you.
Excellent. Kudos to you, Nancy, for being an excellent facilitator.
Yeah, you were great.
Thank you. My first time out.
You're a pro.
Fantastic.
All right, guys, everybody, thank you for joining us. And we will be sending an email to you. Again, it's recorded and we will send you the link to the recording.
Bon appetit.
And hope you all enjoyed it. Our kudos to Scola Cooking School.
Well, thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
That was fun.